Fine. Good afternoon, all. So we'll start off with the loops today. So generally, when I talk about the loops, is you want to execute some statements for multiple number of times. Okay, we put a loop. So loop is like you're executing again and again. So generally, like when you put a loop, we need to ensure somewhere the loop has to stop. Otherwise, it becomes an infinite loop. Okay. So here we'll see we have different types of loops. How do we start a loop? How do we terminate that particular loop? Okay, so we'll look into that. So
Okay.
I think so based on that we have the different types of loops. So we have loops like say example, we have a for loop, we do have a for each loop, we have a while loop, we do have a do while loop, and we have a do until loop. Unless like in Python we just had two types of loops, here we have many types of loops. Around 5 types of loops are there. Okay, we'll look into this particular thing. So generally, like what happens is we use a for loop is you want to execute some statement for a predetermined number of times. Like example, I already know I want to execute this statement for 10 times or 25 times or 100 times or 500 times. I already know in advance, in hand, telling that I want to execute the statement for these many number of loops. We use the for loop. Then we do also have something called as the for each loop. So we look into this one. So this is mainly used when you're working with arrays. See, generally what happens is when you're working with array, in the array what happens is you define the size. We always define the upper limit, telling that array can store this many number of elements. But whatever you have defined, you might store only the few of that particular values. Now I want to iterate a loop and it has to stop automatically when there is no more data to be fetched. Okay, so that means in the case of for each loop, I will not define the end. I will not have a counter and things. So it will automatically fetch for the individual element. And if there is no more element in that particular loop, okay, it is going to stop. The other loops are like your condition based loop. This loops executes based on a certain condition. Okay, so we have a while loop, we have a do while loop, we do also have a do until loop. We'll get into details. So one by one, we'll look into that. So first to start, we'll start off with what you call it as a for loop. So generally when I talk about a for loop, it says the for loop is a repetitive control structure that allows the developers to efficiently write a loop that needs to execute a specific number of times. So that means we use this for executing some statement for a specific number of times. We use the for loop. Now the syntax for the for loop goes like this in VBA. Okay. So the for loop starts with the keyword as for, then we'll have a counter variable. Here, no need of declaring a variable and things. So directly we can initialize it. So that means this I is equal to 0. That means this I becomes a counter variable, which is initialized to 0. So that means it is going to start from 0. 2, till what time, what number it has to go. So I say 2, the maximum number that it has to reach. So we are telling it as 10. So that means this loop will start from 0 to 10. Okay, and then for will have a closing with next. Every start should have a closing. So for is going to have a closing of next, and within this particular, between this for and next, we can write a statement. So here we have just written a statement to print the value of I. So where we wanted to print the value of I wanted to print a value of I in a cell, and I want that value to be moved offset. Okay, row by row I want it to be moved. So that is the reason we have just told that active cell dot offset. So that means from wherever your cursor is there, you keep on moving the I number of rows and print the value of I. Okay, let us understand this, how exactly this executes first. Okay, so let me open this particular. Yep. Okay. So here I have written this particular, what you say, the for loop. So the for loop is written something like this. Just have created a subroutine. Okay. Within this particular subroutine, I've just written this particular for loop. So for I is equal to 1 to 10, I'm starting for the value of I from 1 and going till 10. So that means 1 to 10, it is going to have 10 iterations. It starts from 1 and goes till 10. Then we are telling active cell dot offset. Okay, that means active cell is wherever your cursor is there. From there, do an offsetting. Offsetting is keep moving. So here you can see I have made the column as fixed. Okay, don't move the column, let it be in the same column, but we have told I value has to keep changing. So the value of I here, what happens, it gets incremented with +1. Okay, so in the case of for loop, the value of I gets incremented with +1 by default. So the value of I gets incremented, so it is going to be 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows down, and it is going to print the value as 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, let me keep the cursor over here. So let me remove all this stuff. Let me remove all this stuff. Maybe I'll just keep the cursor on this particular yellow symbol, and let me try to run this particular code. If I try to run this particular code, you can see what happens. So it has generated. So this series from 1 to 10.
1 to 10. Okay.
Okay. So you want to execute for a fixed number of times, you're told. So we already have told it has to start from 1, it has to go till 10. Okay. And when it is executing, we're just trying to fetch the data.
But why is it not printing on the first cell?
Why it is not printing from in the first cell is we are trying to do an offset of I, and the value of I is starting from 1. So when I say offset of 0, 0, it is going to be the current cell. So we're telling offset of first time the value of I is 1. Okay, so it is going to be offset 1. So that means from the current position, it is going to go 1 row down, and then same column prints the value of I.
Okay.
Second time, it is going to go 2 rows down. Okay, gets the value of I in the same column and gets the value of I2. It prints 2, something like that.
Sadiq sir, so if you say I equals to 0 to 10, then it'll show 0 as well?
Yes, it will show
Okay.
0 as well. So when I say I is equal to, instead of 1, I say 0 to 10. So let me delete this. Sure. If I try to run this now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So by default, this is how it is.
This is how it is.
Okay.
So that means
Okay.
here I don't have to have declare a counter variable. I don't have to increment the counter variable. Okay. I don't have to give any kind of a condition or something. So this is one of the simplest and the most efficient loops. So I can say, so, okay, we use this particular loops.
Okay.
All clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next is, so we'll just see an example of a for each loop. Okay. See, the difference between the for loop and the for each loop is for loop, it is used for executing for a predetermined number of times. You already know I want to execute some statement for 10 times or 25 times or this many number of times.
Right.
But for each loop is when you're executing, we don't know how many times this loop has to execute. So this has to keep on executing till it reaches the last element. See, like in Excel, what happens is, okay, you're creating some kind of pivot table or a total or something. Your table data is there. So we have rows. So every time you fetch, look into that particular table, you might have a different number of rows. So now I want to write a statement, go for every row, okay, till you find an empty cell. Once you find an empty row, stop there and then try to do a calculation or something. So in those kind of a scenarios, we use this particular for each. So where I say irrespective number of rows are there, you execute and you stop as soon as it finds an empty row. Okay. We'll try to see the example, that kind of real-time example after understanding this particular loop. So might be end of this particular session, we'll look into those particular example. Here we'll try to understand this particular loop.
Okay.
For understanding this loop, so what I have done here is I have created an array. Okay. So to define an array, what is an array? So array is nothing but group of elements. Okay, group of group of names, group of marks. Okay, so group of multiple elements, okay, is an array. So what I've done here is I have created an array called as fruits. Okay, we are telling it's an array, and we are telling that, okay, this array I have defined some names of the fruits: apple, orange, cherries, grapes, say pineapple, mango. Fine, I've just defined some list of this one. So now this fruits is an array. So you remember, like we did a similar kind of thing in Python. In Python, we had a list where we defined a group of values.
Right.
Okay. Chalo. So in NumPy, we used like something called as an array itself. Okay. Fine. So it's something similar to that. So it contains a group of elements. Now all these elements are there in this particular name of the array called as fruits. Now I want to read the individual fruit. So what I have done here is, so I have declared dim fruit names as variant. See, variant is a data type which can hold any type of values. Okay, so that means I want this particular variable to store all the fruits. That means apple is one fruit, orange is another fruit. Okay, apple is one fruit, orange is another fruit, cherries is one fruit, grapes is one fruit. I want to store all these particular fruits into a single variable. So what I have done is I have defined as a variant. That means okay, it will store all the values into a single this one.
Sadiq sir,
Variant
why?
is the data type which will be decided at runtime. See, when you know if it is the integer, so we know it is values are going to be within a specific range of integer value, a long int or double or a string or something. So variant is okay. You might give an integer value, you might give a double value, you might give a string value, you might give a very very large string value. So any values whatever you give, it will be able to hold that. So that means your data types will be decided at runtime. That is
Sadiq sir, string will not work here, is it?
in this case it will work because we have a very
Okay.
small number of this
Okay.
one names. So
Okay.
up to 255 characters your string will comfortably work. So it will
Okay.
work
Okay.
string also here.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay, we generally use a variant is like when we are reading some data from the
Yeah, yeah.
external sources and we don't know what type of, it is not a very
Okay.
specific type. So in that case we use a variant. That means let it be general any type of values, so it should be able to hold. So now here it
Okay.
should work string. Okay, I think so. Then okay, this is just a holder, a container. What I have,
Right.
it can store all the fruits into that. Now I say for each item in fruits. What is the fruits here? Fruits is an
Yeah.
array.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, array is nothing but collection of items. So what I'm doing here is the for each loop. Okay, it starts with for each, it ends with next. Okay, so we say item in fruit. So we can see when we wrote the for loop, it was like for I is equal to 1 to 10. So that means we said an initialization of the variable until the max point. But here we are telling, oh, there is an array, a group of element. From that, it is going to read the individual element. Okay, so that means for each item in fruits, that means it'll read for every fruit name from the fruits. Okay, and the fruit names is equal to the actual fruit names concatenated with the item. So item is going to be the individual fruit. So when it is iterating, so it is going to iterate like this. First time it will go, it will try to get the apple. Apple will be stored in the item. Okay, and then the fruit name, this is just a declared variable, so it will not have anything. No, so fruit names is null. I say is equal to null ampersand apple. So that means now this particular fruit name will get the value as apple with concatenated with a comma in that. Okay, and then when it is iterating for the next time, already the apple is fetched. Now it is
Right.
going to fetch for orange. Okay, orange is the item. Now the fruit name already has the name as apple and a comma into that. Next, what it will do is it is going to concatenate with orange and then comma. And then the next time it is going to loop, it is going to get for cherries, grapes, pineapple, mango. All these particular names will be read into this particular variable fruits. It is going to concatenate apple, orange, cherries, grapes, and things. So once all the data is being read, okay, so it will automatically come out. See, we are not defining the end point when it has to come. So when there is no more element items to be read after the mango, there is no more item to be read there.
Right.
When there is no more item, it automatically comes out, and then we are trying to say, okay, active cell dot value is equal to fruit cell. That means, so wherever your cursor is there, print all the names of the fruits. Fine. Let me run this first. So you can see in this particular variable, you have got all the names of the fruits or wherever your cursor is there. Apple, orange, cherries, grapes, pineapple, and say mango. See, now what happens is like, let me add another additional fruit here. Actually, what is that?
Watermelon. Something.
I'm adding another this one. So automatically the same loop will read even for watermelon also. So when I try to run this, so you can see here, see even it has read the watermelon also.
Right.
That means here, irrespective of the number of items, it is going to iterate. So like say example, I say I have only 2 names, or I say only 3 fruits. Okay, I just have only 3 fruits now. So still what happens is, when I try to run this, it will read only for 3 items. So that means irrespective of number of items are there, it is going to iterate. So this is very useful in your Excel, when you're going to work on some data where the data is dynamic. Every time the data might be up and down. Okay, it will not have a fixed length of rows. So sometimes you might have 500 rows, sometimes you might have only 100 rows, sometimes it might be thousands of rows. So where the data is dynamically changing in size. And on those kind of data, you want to create some kind of a report, some kind of calculations. The for each loop plays really very vital role. See what happens if I'm not using a for each loop. So when you don't know, I have to have a loop which is going to iterate till the end of the Excel, that is 10 lakhs rows. So where I might have only 50 rows. So instead of 50 iterations, you're going to have 10 lakhs iterations. You can see the performance of your program. So it is going to be drastically very slow if I'm using the other loops. So when I'm using the for each loop, okay, if there is no more item to be read, stop there. Yeah. Yes. Any questions?
So Sadiq sir, this is on.
This is clear, no? The while loop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's clear. Just a minute, sir. I just want to go through it. Say it registers in my mind.
Yep.
One.
While loop is a condition-based loop. It executes based on the condition. As long as the condition is true, the statement keeps on executing. Once it becomes false, so the statement stops. Okay, and we need to ensure that the condition becomes to false somewhere. Okay, so just imagine I have done everything, I have not given this. So this becomes an infinite loop, and here your Excel sheet itself will hang because the value of I is 1, 1 is less than 10, 1 is less than 10. You're again and again asking the same question, but you are not allowing it to go ahead. You are not allowing it to stop this particular procedure. So this will become a never ending. And when you execute this kind of a loop, your Excel sheet will just hang, and you need to terminately abort this particular Excel sheet. In this
So W end is while end.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So while is having a closing with when. For it is next. So for each also it is next.
Next.
Whereas in the case of while it is when.
When. Got it, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was about your while loop. Okay. Next is we do have what you call it as a do while loop. Okay. A do while loop is used when you want to repeat a set of statements as long as the condition is true. You can see here, I want to execute do while loop is used when we want to repeat a set of statement as long as the condition is true. That means I want to execute some statement as long as the condition is true. Okay, the condition will be checked at the beginning of the loop or at the end of the loop. Okay, so it is same like your while loop. Okay, the only difference here is, so the condition what you're checking, the condition will be checked either at the beginning of the loop. So I can say the condition will be checked at the beginning, will be checked at the beginning of the loop or at the end of the loop. So that means the condition what you're given, so the while condition, so that the condition can be given either at the start of the loop or it can be given at the end of the loop. That is what happens in the case of a do while loop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let us see an example of this. Yeah. See, when you compare this, this also, this is your do while. First, let me explain do while itself. Then I'll show you the difference. As usual, I have declared on a counter variable I as integer. I have initialized to 1. And the do while loop is written like this: do loop while condition. Okay. And here I said this while condition can be given at the end of the loop or it can be given over here. So that means this can also be given over here, either at the start of the loop or it can be given at the end of the loop. Now, here, okay, what we are trying to do, we are trying to do the same thing. We're just trying to print the value of this particular counter variable using an offset and trying to increment this particular counter variable to ensure that, okay, so as long as the condition is true, it executes, and when the condition becomes false, it stops. So to ensure that the condition becomes false, okay, so we need to keep on changing the value of I. Otherwise, if it is always true, it never ends. So we need to ensure that we need to have a break. Okay, when you have a loop, wheels should always have a brake for that, proper brakes. Okay, that is what it means. So now let us do one thing. Is when I try to run this, let us run this particular output and see the output, how exactly this will work. Okay, so let me have a similar kind of thing. Yeah, sure. Let me run this program first. You are getting a same output. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so it is printing the same thing, no difference. Okay, no difference. Now I can just put this in this. You can see first. You'll see I can use this while loop either here or either here. So after do or after loop, fine. So if I try to write it in this way, still you can see you'll be able to get the same output. So do while loop is executed 1, 2, 3. Okay, the same output it is working. Okay, then what is the difference in this and that? Now let us take an example here. The value of I is something like say 12. The value of I is 12.
Well,
Now the condition, as I said, the while loop, do while loop and the do until loop, all these are condition based loop. It is
right.
executed only based on a certain given condition. Okay.
Right.
Now the value of I is 12. So 12 is less than 10.
No.
Is 12 less than or equal to 10?
No.
12 is not less than 10. So if it is not less than 10, so it will not be able to go in. Okay, it will not execute this loop. So only you will get the output is do while loop demo. So let us run this. See, it is not executing any of, not even once it is executed.
Right.
Okay, so now I'll try to put the same thing at the end. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll try to put the same thing. Okay, I'm not changing the counter variable. So I have initialized still to 12 itself, but I'm just putting at the bottom. Now in this case, what happens still, it is value of I is 12, 12 is less than 10.
Right.
So it is false. But in this case, what happens? Okay, value of I is initialized, okay, to 12.
Mhm.
It goes here do active cell dot offset. The value of I is what? 12. So from the current cell, it goes 12 rows down in the same column, prints the value of I. That is, it is going to print 12. And then the value of I will get incremented to 12 plus 1, 13. And then it comes here and checks whether 13 is less than or equal to 10. Now it says no, you cannot. Now it
Right.
says okay, it just comes out. Okay, so when you look into this particular thing, so you can see the first time it has got executed and then the condition is being checked. So this is like, you want to allow the user to execute at least once, okay, irrespective of the conditions, and then the conditions has to be checked, so we can use this particular do while loop. Okay, so that means it is executing the same like a while loop, but I can ensure that the statement are executed at least once, irrespective of the condition. Whereas in the case of while loop, so if I use the same thing in the case of while loop, see if the value of I is what is there as 12 here. So I cannot put this condition in the bottom. So that means this will not be executed at all. So you can see this will not be executed at all. Okay, that is the while loop, regular while loop. You can see. So it is just executing the statements. The statements are not executed. Okay, so that means here I can ensure that the statement are executed at least once, irrespective of the conditions. So this is again in your Excel sheet. The first row is generally a headings. I don't want, okay, so when I want it is iterating. So first row, I don't want to perform any kind of check. I want to do it from the second row onwards. So because the first row is the headings columns. That can be one situation. Okay, or like, you can, if you want to execute some statements in the first case, okay, fine. So you want to allow it to happen. And the second case onwards, you want to try to check when it is being violated. So in that case, we use this particular do while loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Francis and Fiza. Thumbs up. Okay. Next is we have what you call it as a do until loop. Okay. So when you look into this particular do until loop is used when we want to repeat a set of statements as long as the condition is false. So you can see one difference here. In the case of while loop or a do while loop, so we used to tell that, okay, keep on executing the statements as long as the condition is true.
True.
Okay. Whereas in the case of do until loop, we are telling to reverse it.
Okay.
So we are telling it to execute the statement as long as the condition is false.
Mhm.
Okay. If it is false, it keeps on executing. If it is true, it stops. So that is what happens here in the case of a do until loop. The condition may be checked. Okay. So again, like your do loop. Okay. Do while loop. So the condition can be either given in the start or the end. The same thing in the case of a do until, the condition can be given either at the start of the loop or it can be given at the end of the loop. So the condition can be checked at the beginning of the loop or it can be checked at the end of the loop. Clear? It is like a condition is reversed here. It is checking, okay, whether if the condition is false, it keeps on checking. So till it becomes true, it keeps on executing. Once it becomes true, it stops. In the previous case, if it is true, it is executing. Once it is false, it was stopping. Is it? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let us see the program. Okay. Okay. Do until loop is here. Again, I have declared a counter variable. So I have just given purposely like 12. So I've given 12, or you can say 1, whatever it is. Do, the condition can be given either at the start or the end. Okay. So now you can see 1 here. I've given the reverse of that. Before I was checking whether it's less. Now I'm checking check whether it is greater than. So value of I is 1. Is 1 greater than 10? Is
No.
1 greater than 10?
False.
False. When it falls, it executes. It is reverse here.
Okay.
Okay. When it falls, it executes and it ensures it will execute till it becomes a true. Okay. So
Okay.
it is false. It will execute. It will print the value of I, increment the value of I. So it's going to become as 1 plus 1, 2. 2 is greater than 10. 2 is greater than
No.
10.
No.
It is false. Then again, it does the same job. Prints the value of I, increments 3. So then value of I is going to be 3. 3 is greater than 10. Okay. It says 3 is greater than 10. It is false. So when it is false, it executes. So when it is 10, 10 is greater than 10. 10 is greater than 10. It is false.
No, it's equal
Print
to
even
4.
the 10 also. Then it becomes to 10 plus 1, 11. Now is 11 greater than 10?
Yes.
Yes. When it is yes, now it stops. It will not print 11. It will print till 10. So let us run this particular program. So I just keep here, say run this. So you can see it is going from 1 to 10. Fine.
Yeah.
So the same like your do while. So do until, the condition can be given either at the start or it can be given at the end. So if I try to run this particular thing again, it'll do the same job. Okay, but if this is 15 or 12 or something, still like at least once the statement will be executed irrespective of the condition. It goes 15 rows down and prints the value once. Okay. So
Okay.
now where we use this particular do until is, say example, I have list of students. Okay. Now I want to check in this particular list, do I have Francis? If I have Francis, okay, fine. I want to take this particular batch. Otherwise, I don't want to take this batch. Fine. So in that case, what I do, I'll pick the first student name, try to match whether it is matching with Francis. If it is matching, okay, fine. I'll say stop. Okay, I want to go ahead. So if not, okay, I want to look for Francis in that particular list. Okay, as soon as I find the name Francis, it might be in the 5th position or a 10th position or 20th position. As soon as I find a match there, then I say, okay, fine, now I'll stop. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, in the list of values, you want to search for some values. Okay. So we can use this particular do until loop. So as you keep on searching, so whether your search is been matching. If your search has been matched, the condition is true. When the condition is true, okay, then you want to stop. Okay. Okay, you want to search for some data, we use this particular thing. Fine. Yeah,
Got it.
so we have studied almost what to say 5 different types of loops: the for loop, the for each loop, what is it, the
While,
while loop, the do while
do
loop,
while,
and the do
do
until
until.
loop. Okay, I think that is fine. I think nested loops is fine. So any questions still here?
No, I guess when we practice.
We'll just see some examples with respect to this. Resume the recording. Okay. This is what we will be covering it now. So first we'll start off with this particular simple, how do you add a new worksheet. Fine. So using the loops. So let me get into the code first. Or let me run this loops first. Okay. Then I'll ask you what is the use of this loop. So what this add sheet one. So you can see there is one button here which says add a sheet one. Okay. So when I hit on this, I am expecting a sheet to be added, and you can see this is a named sheet, not a default name. It's a custom name. So I'm giving the name of the sheet as new sheet.
New sheet.
Fine. As soon as we hit on this particular thing, a new sheet is been added. Now just imagine I want to hit this particular code again. When I hit the code again, will the code execute?
No.
In general, huh?
No.
No.
It will not execute. Why it will not execute? Because
Two
I
sheets
cannot
cannot
have
have the
another,
same.
because
Mhm.
it is adding a sheet with the name as new sheet. Okay. Now again, you try to run this. Okay. It is going to add a sheet called as new sheet, where that sheet is already there. The name conflict is there. If I delete this or if I rename this and add, it will work. Otherwise, it should not work. But you can see with the help of this loops, what I'm trying to do is the name is already taken. Try a different name. So that means I have not used the loops. Yeah, I've commented that loop. So fine. So I want to handle this kind of situation, this kind of error. So that is where we take the help of the loops. So I can do this with the help of the different types of loops. So we'll just see one by one. Okay. See, like, the code what I have written for that is very simple. I'll just say worksheets.add. It is going to add a new worksheet, and that sheet is going to be by default an active sheet. The name of that is new sheet. First time it will work, second time. So we saw the program broke. Okay. I don't want this kind of program to be broken. So I want this to be executed successfully. How do we handle it? To handle this, we will be using the loops. Okay. So what I'll do is to handle the situation. Okay. Here I have declared a variable here called as obj sheet as a worksheet. I'm creating an object of this class called as a worksheet. So we all know till now, because we have already discussed about this. Worksheet is a class, and we are creating a variable of this particular class. Okay. Obj sheet is an object of this particular worksheet. Then sheet count as, okay, so here I've declared one sheet count variable as integer. This is just to keep a track how many sheets are there in your workbook. And then I say active workbook. That means active workbook is my Excel file .sheets.count. This will tell me how many sheets are there. So if you say sheets.count also will do. So this is what we have studied in the previous this one. Or active workbook.sheets means, okay, if you have opened 3-4 different workbook. So from there, the active work currently where the cursor is in that workbook, how many sheets are there? So that is what it is going to be. Is like a fully qualified name. So if you give sheets.count, still you'll get the same this one number of sheets in this. So that will tell me here, because I want this particular loop to execute for the number of sheets in that particular Excel. So how many sheets are there? So like you have 1, 2, 3, like whatever the number of sheets are there. I want to have a loop which is going to execute for all the number of sheets. Fine. That is the reason I just want to keep a track of sheet count. Then I have declared a counter variable for I is equal to 1 to sheet count. So imagine I have 10 sheets. That means the loop is going to go for 10 times. So next time I have 11 sheets. So the loop has to go 11 times. So if I have 3 sheets, so loop has to go 3 times. So that means starting from 1 to this particular count. So this is the total sheet count number. So in the previous example, we saw 1 to 10. So 10 was a number. Here I'm referring to this particular integer variable. So that means it will start from this, it will go till this number. If sheets of I, okay, so now what happens is when it is iterating, so I'm trying to get the name of the sheet. If okay, so that means it is going for every sheet, and I want to check the name of that sheet. If the name of the sheet is matching to this, then exit sub. When I say exit sub, what happens? just comes out. Okay, so now what it does is, okay, it will start from 1 to the total end count. So we are trying to check if sheets of value of I is 1 first time. No, let us have a small I. It sounds good. Yeah, I is 1. So sheets of 1, it will look for the first sheet name. Okay, is equal to. So what is the name of the first sheet here? New sheet. It is matching. Already it is matching. So then it say, oh, sheet is already matching. It just comes out. Okay, without going to the statement. So when I say exit sub, we know that. So as soon as you write an exit sub, it comes out of the sub. So that means whatever the statements are there here will not be executed. So when I say exit sub, so that is what we are trying to do here. So now, okay, I have written this code. Now if I try to add the same program, so now you can see what happens. Yeah. So now you can see when I hit on that, the program is not terminating abruptly. So it says, okay, there is one sheet with the name as sheet, a new sheet. So it is just coming out without doing anything. Got it? So if this sheet is not there, okay, so if this sheet is not there, so in that case, what happens is this loop, this will iterate. If I want, I can just put a breakpoint. I can show you. So if I try to run this particular code, see, what is the sheet count here? Sheet count is 11. Okay, if you want, I can put a watch. The sheet count. Sheet count is 11, and I want to add a watch of I. So I is 1. So the counter variable is starting from 1, and you want to have a sheets of I dot name. So I'll add a watch. I'm just trying to find debug this program and try to find. So I just say sheets of I dot say name. So sheets of I means, so I is the index value there. So first time it is going to be sheet of 1 dot name, sheet dot 2 dot name. So whatever the value of I, try to get the name and trying to find out what is the name. I'm just putting an add watch here. So now you can see the value of sheet count is 11 and value of I is 1. So it says sheet of 1 dot name. What is the sheet of 1 dot name? When you look into this particular thing, sheet of 1 dot name is sheet 6. So now we are trying to check whether that name is matching to this. Sheet 6 is matching to sheet new sheet. No, it is not matching. So what happens? Okay, it will continue your for loop. It will continue the for loop. Now the value of I is 2. Okay, value of I is 2. Now sheets of 2 dot name. What is the sheet of 2 dot name? That is the second sheet name is sheet 1. Okay, so that is sheet of 2. That is value of I is 2 here. Value of I is 2. Sheet of 2 dot name is sheet 1. Whether the sheet 1 name is matching to new sheet, sheet 1 is equal to new sheet is not the same. Okay, so it will continue. So here you can see just keeps on continuing sheet 2, 3. It is looking for every sheet, BLR 78, 32. So think none of the sheet name is matching. So then what it has done is it has gone down. It has added this particular sheet here as new sheet. Okay, and then it is coming out of the program. Clear? All clear? Okay, this is the use of loops here. So okay, see, it looks like a small scenario. So, but you know, real time pay, when you're running a particular program, you're trying to add a worksheet, and because of one error, the whole program terminates abruptly in between of it. So now I want things to go smoothly. So to handle those particular kind of scenarios, so we have to use this particular loop, because you know I cannot have two sheets with the same name. To check, okay, is there any of the sheet existing with that name? So I used a loop. So to go for this loop, I just use this particular count to find out how many sheets are there, and I use this particular variable to find out what is the actual name of that particular sheet, and I'm looking for every sheet. And you can see I'm using the for loop and the if loop. So for loop will iterate for every sheet, and within the every sheet it is going to check the name of that particular sheet. Okay, so if any of the sheet name is matching, I'm just trying to just say exit sub. See, in this case, if I already have a sheet with that name, okay, so it just it accepts, it will not terminate the program, but it doesn't tell you anything. It is not even telling that okay, the sheet is already there or something. A good programmer's practice will be that is, if that sheet is already there, instead of keeping it idle like this and telling, so let it the focus come over there, okay, and pass a message telling that okay, let it pass a message telling that okay, the sheet you're trying to add is already been added. And it will be good if the focus comes to this particular sheet. Oh, this is the sheet that you are trying to add, which is already been added. So that can be a good programmer's code. Okay, so how do we do that one? So that is what we will look into things. So now when you see here, apart from that, the same code, before I go to the next step, what I explained, okay, the same code what I did here, so I have done even with the help of the for each loop. See here I have used a for loop. So in the case of for loop, I need to know how many times you want to execute, I want to evaluate and all this thing. But you can see I'm trying to do with the same thing with the help of the for each loop. Just comment it. I'll just. So instead of writing this much of lines of code, we can see if I'm using the for each loop, I'll just be writing only 3 lines of code. Okay, the for each obj sheet in active workbook dot sheets. So now for each loops works in a collections or an arrays. Now we say active workbook dot sheets. It's a collection of worksheets. Okay, from there it is going to pick the individual sheet. Okay, and we are trying to check if the name of the sheet is matching to this name, then exit sub. If so, that means this is going to iterate for every sheet. If any of the sheet name is matching to this particular name, so then we are trying to say exit sub. So now what happens is in the active workbook, let it have 10 sheets or 15 sheets or 20 sheets or 2 sheets. It is going to iterate for that many number of sheets. Okay, if there is no more sheets to be read, it automatically stops. You don't have to give the end. Even you don't have to declare this particular obj sheet, I believe. So I think it should work. Okay, so we just need to get this one. Okay, that's it. So you can see here the code is the new sheet is already there, or if it is not there, so this is for each loop. So if you want, I can put a breakpoint. So if I try to run this particular program, there is no counter variable or anything. So obj sheet dot name. So it is sheet 6 matching to new sheet. No. Sheet 1, sheet 2. You can see it is iterating for every sheet. Okay. So it goes till the last. BLR 24, 44, CHC 54, some sheets 56. Okay. There is no more sheets. In that case, what happens? Then it says add, a new sheet has been added. Now, if I try to run this particular code again, so let us have this sheet somewhere in between over here. Okay. So now if I try to run this particular program, so you can see it says first sheet matching. So it is sheet 6 not matching, sheet 1 not matching, sheet 2 not matching, sheet 3 not matching, 4 no matching. New sheet. Okay. So you can see the obj sheet dot name is matching to a new sheet. Okay. So you can see here the name of this is new sheet and matching to this. Yes. So now what is happening here? It has gone to the exit sub. Exit sub will just terminate the code. Got it?
Yeah.
So what I did the code with the help of the for loop, the same code, the same set of code I've just done with the help of the for each loop. So for each is more efficient. Okay, so here you don't need to have the number of sheets are there. You don't have to have that particular count or anything. It automatically looks for every sheets over there, and it will stop automatically if there is no more sheets to be read. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So code also is very simple in this. Okay. In the case of for each loop compared to the for loops. Yeah. Okay. The second scenario I said was Okay, it's not a good programmer's practice. Okay, if the sheet is already there, it is just see, it is not throwing any error, but it's not even telling anything why exactly I'm not executing. Okay, so it has to give a message telling that, okay, your sheet that you're adding is already existing. Okay, please look into that, and if the focus is gone there, can be a good this one. So I think that I have done it in this one. Okay, worksheet, a worksheet with that name already exists that you're trying to add, and it's prompting this message. And when I say okay, you can see what is happening. My cursor is shifted in the new sheet, and it has got the focus into that sheet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, in the first case, instead of being idle here, okay, if the new sheet is not there, so let us say that if sheet is not there, in that case, that is, I'm running the second macro. Okay, it is adding a sheet and naming that. So if it is already there, okay, it is prompting a message, a worksheet with that already exists, and focusing on that sheet. Okay, this is a little better program. So how do we do that? In this case, I have again used a for each loop. So in the for each loop, trying to read the data from the active workbook dot sheets. That means it will look for the every sheet. Okay, and if the obj sheet dot name is matching to the new sheet, so if any of the sheet is matching, so that means it is going to iterate from the first sheet, second sheet, and looks for the name of that. If the name of the sheet is matching, then you'll get a message telling that, okay, message box, a worksheet with that name already exists. And then you can see worksheets of name of the sheet. What is the name of the sheet? New sheet dot activate. Focus over there and then exit. Don't do anything. It will iterate for every this one. If none of the sheet name is matching, that means it will not enter the if. In every iteration, if none of the sheet name is matching, it will never enter the if. So when it is not entering the if, you'll not get a message box and activate and things. So then it just says, after coming out of this for each loop, it said, I went for all the sheets, but none of the sheet name was matching to the name that you're looking for. So that means you have a green signal that you can add a sheet with that name. So it just goes there, adds a new worksheet and names it as new sheet.
Okay.
Got it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that means it is
Yeah.
iterating for every sheet and looking for the name of that. Okay. Since I have put this particular block of code in the if any of the sheet, if none of the sheet is matching with this name, so then, okay, just comes NP header telling that I looked in all the sheets name, but none of the sheet name is matching to the name that you have provided. So it is just going to add a worksheet and things. So if any of the sheet name is matching, then it just prompts a message and makes that particular thing sheet as activate. And then we are trying to use an exit. That means if any of the sheet name is matching, so you don't have to add another worksheet with the same. Fine.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I try to run this particular code now, okay, so I'll put a breakpoint. So let us have some area. So when I try to run this program, so you can see first time it enters the name of the sheet is what? Sheet 6 is matching to new sheet. No. Sheet 4 is not matching. Now it is sheet 2. Still it is not matching. Okay. Now sheet name is new sheet. It is matching to this value. Exactly match. So since it is matching, so it says a worksheet with that name already exists. We can see it will prompt a message. And then when I say okay, the focus comes to this particular new sheet over here. Okay. And then exit sub. Exit sub directly comes out of this particular code. If none of the sheet is matching with this name. Okay. So in that case, it will iterate for every sheet. So you can see it will iterate for every sheet. None of the sheet is matching. So then, yep, it has added a new sheet. It just comes out.
Okay.
You again stopped recording for the previous example. Oh
Looks like
God.
Francis, your eyes is only focused on that one.
No,
Huh?
no, because it helps me to again go back and see. That's why.
Okay, okay, fine.
I think you stopped, no, last time also.
I just paused in between. Yeah. Okay, okay, fine.
But then the last previous one did not got recorded.
Okay. See again, you know, the same this one. I've just written once again the code. Here, what I have done here is, again, I'm using the for each loop to iterate. See, it is doing the same job. But what is happening is, in the previous case, it is going to look for every sheet. If any of the sheet name is matching, then we are telling to come out of the complete out of the procedure. But here you can see, I've used an example where I'm not coming out of the procedure, I'm coming out of the loop. Exit for. Exit for means you're inside the for, it comes out of the for. When I say exit sub, what happens? Okay, exit sub will come out of the sub. If I say exit sub, okay, before it was using exit sub, now it is using the exit for. It is doing the same job what we did in the previous this one. So I have declared a variable of type worksheet. I have declared one boolean variable, so make it as true or false. And then I'm trying to use this for each obj sheet in active workbook dot sheets. This is going to iterate for every sheet in that particular active workbook. If the sheet name is matching to this name, that means it is looking for every sheet. If any of the sheet name is matching, so you can see here I have made this a boolean variable. See, what is a boolean? So we have declared a variable of type boolean. So generally when I talk about a boolean, boolean means, okay, a variable which can hold a value either as true or false. It can hold only a logical value, either true or false. Okay, so now I'm going to iterate for every sheet here. Okay, and then we are trying to check, okay, if the sheet name has been found. If it is found, it just marks as boolean. Okay, and then comes out of this particular for loop. That's it. And then we are trying to say, if not boolean found, then that means if it is not found, that means if it is false, then we say add a worksheet with the name as new sheet. If it is already found, then it will add with a so then it just what happens is this will become false. Means this will see what happens is this will iterate for every sheet in the active workbook, and it will look for the name of the sheet matching to this. If any of the sheet, first sheet, or say example you're in the fifth sheet, if the fifth sheet name is matching to a new sheet, it is found. It comes here. Okay, the condition will be matched. Okay, if the name of the sheet is matching found, then only then the statement will execute, and then this variable will get the value as true. And if I declare the boolean variable, if I have not assigned anything, by default a boolean variable will get a value as false. It will have an initial value as false, but here if the any of the sheet name is matching, then it becomes to true. Okay, and then we are trying to exit the for loop. Okay, and then we are trying to say if not boolean found, that means if it is not found, that means if it is false, that means it is not true, then it is going to add a new worksheet with this name. If it is already true, okay, it will not do anything. Okay, so is the same task which has been executed. Yeah, so if I try to run this, the sheet is already there, it is not doing anything. If it is not there, it is just going to add a sheet with that name. Okay, so we have just kept a we're trying to terminate only the for loop, not the other loop, and we have just kept a boolean variable to check the name is matching or not. See, this will be again useful. See, as I said, I have a list of employee names, so I'm looking for some name, say Francis. Now there might be multiple Francis in that particular list. So as soon as the Francis is found, before we used to tell like, stop searching. Now I say, no, go ahead till the end, keep searching. Okay. So it will go till the end, it will keep searching. So there I want to keep a track, like, how many Francis are there. So it has to tell me, like, okay, in this particular sheet, if there are 3 Francis, it has to come out and say, like, I have 3 Francis or something. Okay. So in that case, I can just use some kind of a counter variables. So we can, so instead of terminating it, so we can further continue till the end, and we can find out whether this name is further available anywhere. So we can do. So that example is also been covered. So will be covered in this particular thing. Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, might be that kind of example we can see in this particular thing. So here what is there is, I just have a random dates. Okay, there is a random dates over here. In this, what is today's date?
6th of
April. Okay, so it's something like this, no? 4/6/2020. This is today's date. Fine. So I need to look for a cell which is matching to today's date. Okay, and so that means if it matches any of the cell which is matching to today's date, I want to stop the search. Okay. Fine. Let us find out with the help of this particular loops. See here, if I say this is not matching, say 4/4, it's not matching. So it has to go here and thing. So now if I have to search, what is that I need to do? See, one thing is I need to search in this particular sheet. In this sheet, how many cells are there? I have billions of cells. That means 10,48,000 rows are there, and 16,000 okay, columns are there. So it's if 16,000 into 10 lakhs, it is billions of cells are there in this single sheet. Okay.
Right.
Now I want to write a loop which is not going to iterate for all the billions. It is going to iterate only for those particular data which contains the value. Okay, I want to iterate only on those particular cells which contains the values. Fine. So now when it is iterating, when it contains the value, it has to pick for every cell. Okay. So first thing is my loop has to be restricted only for this many iterations, this and this, or like if it is only this much. So how many cells? See how many, if I select the whole this one, so how many counts are there totally? 253. Okay, so it has to loop only for this particular 253 cells. Okay, only in this particular cells it has to count. That is one thing. Okay, so that means instead of iterating for millions of cells, I've just reduced my number of iterations to around 252. Fine. The second thing is I need to pick the value of every cell and match for today's date. So that means I need to know what is today's date first and then get the value of the cell and try to match it. If it is matching found, then I want to stop. So let us see whether it is working. Find a cell. It says no cell is containing today's date. Or none of the cell is matching to today's date here.
No, it is there, no? I'll
There
show you. O22.
4/6/2020.
No, O22 also has today's date.
Okay, once again, I just need to correct it. Yep, it is working. 4/6/2020.
Yeah.
Now, this particular 4/6/2020, you can see it is over here. There are many places also. Means you can see the count was fast. So what is that I have done here is first I have told it has to count only for this. If I have to count only for this particular range of data, so remember, like in the previous classes, we're discussing something called as what is that? Current region. Current region is what? If I select any focus here and if I say Control A, only a particular region of the data is selected. Okay.
Right.
Now I want to work only on this particular small region of data. Fine. So that is what is the first thing what I need to do. So when you look into the code, I have just implemented that here. So when you get into the code, so here we can see first I have declared a variable called as obj cell, which is of type object. That means I want this particular variable to get the value of the cell. Now in the cell you might have a date, or it might have a time, or it might have some ABCD or name or any this one. So now I want this variable to hold that particular data. That's it. Now I say for each obj cell in active sheet dot used range dot cells. What is happening here? Okay, so I'm not using current region, used range. Used range is, see, I have some dates over here. I might just have some dates over here also. So now in this case, what happens? These are used cells, and this particular cells are unused cells. That means they don't contain any data. So now my search should happen only on the cells which contains the data. So for that, I've just written this active sheet dot used range dot cells. That means in that particular whole Excel, look only for those cells which has some data, okay, which has been used. So don't look for the cells which is not used or which has been untouched. because we have many untouched, because hardly 1% of the cells we have used. Okay, so that means we are just reducing the number of iterations. Then within that used range of cells, within that particular used range of cells, okay, so I need to get, okay, if obj cell dot value is matching to today's date, so that means it is going to iterate for every cell, and there we are trying to use this one. If obj cell dot value, that means it'll pick the first cell, second cell, third cell, that means every cell we are trying to find out what is the value of that, whether that value is matching to this value. Date is a function in VB which gives me the current date, the current system date. So it'll pick the individual cell value of that cell matching to today's date. If it is matching, it just says select that particular cell, and then immediately pass a message telling today's date was found in the cell. Okay, obj cell dot address will give me the address of that cell, and I just want to highlight that, just changing the color of that, and then trying to exit sub. So that means here what it does is it starts from here. It was going, it has picked this cell not match. As soon as the match has found, it says match has found, it has stopped here, it has not gone further. So that means how many iterations have happened here is, it has happened only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 iterations. After 9th iteration, it just came out. Got it? So we are not iterating for 1 to last. We are just iterating as soon as the match is found. We are trying to stop. So that means in the using the if, we are trying to forcefully stop this iteration. Or you want to see this number of iterations? Fine. So you can see here the number of iterations it goes. When I say hit this, VGSL dot value will add watch. $4.15, then $4.14, $3.31. I'll stop this. I'll just run this. So number of iterations will be very less in this. So first cell value was empty. So you can see it was something around 9 to 10 iterations. It was fetching that value, and it has just stopped immediately as soon as it found the empty cell. It did not go for all the cells, or nor even like, in the used range, we have some 253 cells. It did not go even for the 253 iterations. After 9th or 10th iteration, it just stopped. Okay. So this is what is this particular loop doing here.
If we have to select every cell which has today's date.
Yeah, every active sheet dot use range of cells. That means the range of cells which has some data. So it is looking for those particular cells, and then we are trying to work on that particular cells.
Correct, but after the first iteration, it's stopping, right?
After the once the match has been found, as soon as the match is been found, it is stopping.
No, if I
It
have
is
to
not
search,
going after this.
if I have to go further,
If you have to go further, so that is where, like in the previous programming thing, what we did, okay, we'll be doing that similar talk. So instead of using this, I just put a kind of a loop and try to find out whether a match has been found or not found. If it is match is found, we just say it is found, and we say continue this particular loop. I'll not use the exit sub. I'll not be using the exit sub. So for that, I'll just show you the code. I just have another code here. Yeah. So this is that code which will go for the complete used range. Okay. Even after it has been found, it will go till the end of the used range. In this, okay, that is the second method, obj cell to get the value of that cell. Finally, to hold that result, I have declared one string variable. So finally, what happens here? I was giving the today's date is found in the cell M3. M3 was the string value. So since many cells contains today's date, so I want to join all those particular addresses and I want to show as one message. Today's cells, today's date is found in all these cells, all the name of the cells I want to show. So I've just declared one string variable to concatenate all the addresses and store into this particular variable. Okay. For that, I have declared one string variable. I have just counter variable here. Okay. Just to keep a track, how many cells is matching to today's date. As soon as a cell is matching to today's date, so instead of telling exit sub, I want to get a count. Okay. Telling that, okay, as soon as there is a found, okay, I just get a hit count telling, okay, I got it once. Then again, I go further. Again, I get a matching cell. Again, I say, oh, found. Then hit count has to become 2, 3, 4. So that means I want to even keep a track in how many number of cells this particular today's date is been found. For that, I have declared this particular I. Yeah. So now in this case, I'm just using for each obj cell in active sheet.useRange.cells. So what this is going to do, the same procedure in that particular used range of data, it is looking for every cell. If obj cell that is going to iterate for every cell value is being picked and matching for this particular date, whether that value of the cell is matching to this date. If any of the cells value is matching to this date, so previously what we did is we used a exit sub. We just said to come out of this as soon as the match has been formed. But here we are telling that str range, which is just a string variable, is equal to str range, okay, concatenating with comma, and then we are telling that obj cell dot address. It'll get the address of that, it'll just concatenate. And then the counter variable, the I value get incremented. So initial, I've just declared, I have not initialized. So it will have a default initialization as 0. So it becomes 0 plus 1. That means you got one cell matching to today's date. So then again, then we are trying to change the color of that cell to, we are selecting that cell and changing the color of that cell to blue color. This previously we changed to red color. Now we are changing to blue color here. Then again, what happens, this iteration will go on for all the used range cells. Then again, it goes on. If a cell is not matching to today's date, it just it keeps on iterating. Again, a matching cell value is found. Then we have a new address with that old address and new address will be concatenated and it will become as a new string. M3 plus M3 comma O3 or J3 or something. Okay. And then your hit count will get incremented with +1. So it was 1. So it becomes 1 plus 1, 2. Changes that current cell to blue. Again, it goes. So it looks for the cell matching. If it is not matching, it keeps on iterating for the match. Again, if there is a match found, okay, get the address of that. It will just concatenate to the string. So I say count becomes 3. So it goes on like this, change the color and all these things. And finally, if after iterating for this, is you can see I'm not using exit sub. So that means irrespectively the match has been found. If any of the cells value has been found, instead of telling exit sub, so we are updating that string variable, we are updating the counter variable, we are updating the color of that, and we are telling to go till the end of the current region. And once the complete iterations are over for that particular used range cells, then we are trying to just say if length of string is equal to 0. That means if none of the cells is matching to today's date, this variable would have not updated anything. So then we say message box, no cell is containing today's date. Else, so we say message box, today's date is found in this particular string range. In this particular addresses, today's date is been found, the addresses of those cells, and today's date is found in number of times. So we'll just say how many times it is found. That will be the I. So if I try to run this particular code, okay, so you can see it is going to iterate, fine, and you can see finally all the cells which is containing today's date, 4/6/2020, 4/6/2020, 4/6/2020. It has got the address of that. It is found in
Right.
M3, M6, 07, all those addresses, and also it is telling that as 22 times I think the cell has been found.
Okay.
Is another message. Huh? Yeah. So 13 times. Okay, we are passing us two different messages. Today's date is found number of times, say 13 times. Got it? Yes, quotes.
Got it, sir.
Yeah. So यहाँ पे क्या कर रहे हैं is like, you know, we are going, we are not stopping the loop. even the found is match has been found. If the match is found, we are updating the string, telling that getting the address of that, and if the second address is there, we are concatenating the address, and we are just accumulating that string, the addresses. And also we are just trying to keep okay, so there might be a question like, I want to know, I also want to know how many times the names are okay, matching dates are been found. I'm just keeping. So if that is not required, no need of this, no need of this and this. Okay, so I'm trying to do all those particular stuff in this. Okay, so and finally we are just trying to say if the str range, that means there is no data in that, so that means this condition has never got satisfied. So that means none of the cell value was matching to today's date. Okay, if any of the cells is matching, so this will have something. So in that case, so we are trying to find how many times the data has been found and how many times this has been found.
Sir, this if lens str range, that one, if you can explain again.
See, str range, what happens is if any of the cells value is matching to today's date, if it is matching to today's date, what happens is this will get updated. It will get the address of that. If there is multiple, it will get concatenated. Just imagine in that particular range, none of the cell is matching to today's date. None of the cell is containing. So that means it will iterate for all the range, but not even once the if condition will be satisfied. Okay. If the if condition is not satisfied, this is the part of the if statement.
Okay.
So when the if is not satisfied even at least once, this has not got updated with anything. So it is empty. The string what you have declared, it is as it is empty. So we are trying to say if the length is 0, that means that there is no data in that. So that means, okay, there is no cell which is matching to today's date.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yes, Franz.
I never saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on that?
So far, no.
Far no good.
No, sir, but I think this one I should practice today itself. Otherwise, I might.
See, here what I'm trying to do is in this particular program, I'm trying to find one cell value, and next to that, I'm trying to just say whether it's an even number or odd number.
Okay.
Okay. So I have almost 2013 rows. Okay. So that can be a dynamic values. It can be, any number of rows. Fine. So any values and things. So I just want to print even or odd. Okay, one column ahead. That means using offset, I can just one column ahead. Okay, and print the value. And we can see when I try to run this, how fast it is doing. It's doing fast.
Yes.
Yes, Anil says.
On and on. Stopped.
Yep. Tell me.
That's a lot of data. Okay, done.
A lot of data. Okay. Fine. It took how much time? How many seconds? Approximately
5-6 seconds, I think.
5-6 seconds. Might be more than that. I think 20 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. But IT industry, they don't accept this. 2000 is not big data, Anil.
It is not.
2000 is not a big data, is it?
Yeah.
Not at all a big data. Okay. But, IT industry, what they expect something like this. On a click, you can see you got it.
Yeah.
This code is more efficient. Okay. So we have used a different logic here. So, but I feel like, we can do this particular code in the next session.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Might be it's already overloaded.